Call him up and tell him what. Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
What's up? I am here, Mr. Martin. I'm there. You have a matching orange shirt to my matching orange hat. What's up, Coville? You like this one too? So thought so. Streaming all over the place. Good morning to you, Dilly Dilly, Coffee Dilly Dilly, Coffee Dilly. Well, And I just want to welcome in our Facebook Live audience. Sorry, we were trying to go to another spot on Facebook and it didn't work. We are now live to the Buddy Martin Show. We've been live on Periscope and we've been live on YouTube. So sorry, Facebook peeps. I screwed up and I was live at the wrong place. But we're now live. So welcome to the show. Dilly to those who just joined us. Hello to everybody else who are on the show. Buddy, if you could, could you reset for us just a little bit? It's my fault. You can whack the head later. But again, we're trying out new features and platforms here. And I was streaming 3 other places, just not streaming to the most important place, which is the Buddy Martin Show Facebook.
No wonder I couldn't get it up on my phone either because we were just, here's the thing about it. I heard this interview yesterday with this guy. If you want to get Graham Hall up anytime, that'd be fine. He said he loves to quote John Wooden. For fans who know Steve Spurrier, who read that book, where's that book? Behind me. Know that Steve Spurrier's favorite coach / philosopher is not a football coach, but John Wooden. And this particular caller on the show, or this guest on the show, says he quotes Wooden, takes Wooden quotes every day and puts them on his door of his closet. And the one he read was basically, this is the essence of the quote. I don't have it in front of me. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. And he went on to say, this particular person said, you need to push yourself to the point of making mistakes. And then when you make mistakes, you're giving everything you got. So that's us.
So
we make mistakes.
The essence of that, let's hit it. Let's just, since we were all sorts of issues there, buddy, I feel like we need to start over. I just feel like we need to start again. We had audio issues. We had everything. No one got us. Let's just start over, go right to Graham, and then everyone feels like we have a complete show. What do you say?
All right. This is Martin and Martin in the morning on a Friday edition. A few technical glitches again.
Hold on, and I'll roll our open, and we'll say good morning to everybody else.
Go ahead, Brandon. Roll.
Right, thank you.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth, but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good morning and welcome to Martin and Martin in the morning. Once again, you get a double take. Good morning, Dilly Brendan. Here's my cup of coffee from, by the way, the Marietta Diner in Atlanta. If you're ever up that way, my good friend manages that place. Excellent place to eat, Marietta. This is my friend Ed, my best friend from childhood. How are you this morning, Brendan?
Good, I'm good. If you could see my picture, which you can't, you'd see my dry erase board that says I'm sorry. I have a I'm sorry sign up here with birds around my head. So that's letting everyone. Well, TGIF. Yeah. I'm sorry, nation. Let's hit a reset. Everyone gets a mulligan. I got a mulligan this morning.
All right. There you go. I see it. There's an old Brenda Lee song. I'm sorry. Play that.
Sorry.
There you go. Well, the folks are finding us now. Once again, I apologize. Let's go ahead and get our friend. Before I go forward, thanks again to our great sponsors. Daniel L. Hightower, lawyer fighting for accident victim justice since 1976. Also, our friends at World of Beer, Kerry and Chad and the gang up there. We've got plans to get James Bates out with us soon. Brady and I do that show every Wednesday at 6. And, of course, our good friends at Center State Bank. Remember, Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. All that stuff going on today. Our guest will be Graham Hall from the Games.
Graham is on right now. Good morning, Graham. How are you, sir?
Hey, guys. How's it going today? Good to be here.
What's up, Greg?
Always a pleasure. How's it going, buddy? Brendan? Good. Hope you guys are having a good morning.
Well, we had a little false start. We got a 5-yard penalty.
I get a mulligan. I get a mulligan. So
that's everyone gets one mulligan, right?
Yeah.
At least one. That's the way I play.
I'm only trying to stream to like 4 platforms, and get all the buddies, very detailed instructions in the morning, and get it all done, and get a cup of coffee, get my kid to school. I'm only trying to get it all done. I'm trying to be.
Yeah, man. Can't do it all.
I'm a snag, a sensitive new age guy. All right, I do it all. Right? So
I think Coach Spurrier would call that an excuse because he didn't take it, but that's okay.
No
we're good with that.
We're on the air. Just a little
flag, whatever.
Hey,
like we're saying. 5 yards. There you go. How are you, Graham?
I'm doing well, guys. Yourself? Just
you're getting ready to go do a little battle with the recruits, and tell us about the grill out. And you have baseball this weekend?
Yeah, baseball's going on. I'm not covering the Mississippi State games. They dropped a late lead last night, 6-3, to Mississippi State. Probably have the number 1 seed locked up already, despite what would happen in the SEC tournament. So not too much to worry about, but never want to see a team blow a lead the way they did kind of last night. So look out for that.
What happened? I went to see a play last night at the local theater, Mamma Mia. I didn't see the game. What happened? How was
that? That's you probably were better off.
Oh, please give us the review of Mamma Mia first. Let's just get to that right away.
I need to hear that.
The nation needs to hear about Mamma Mia. Go ahead, buddy.
I'll say this: they didn't have but 1 start. They didn't have to have 2, but nonetheless, it was Coach Spurrier. You always like to say, don't give us excuses, just give us results. So I'll ask you for the results. And what happened last night? Did Byrne blow a lead? What happened? The bullpen let Sully down, or what?
No, they kind of wanted to preserve everyone on 6 days rest with it kind of being a Thursday start. They didn't pitch Brady Singer last night. Instead gave freshman Tommy Mace the opportunity to go 6 in the 3rd innings. Just allowed 1 hit kind of up to that point. Florida had a 3-0 lead heading into the 6th inning, and then kind of faded down the stretch there in the 8th inning. They hit a 2-run home run, put it up 4-3, and then they hit a 2-run home run to kind of pad the lead again. 2 home runs when they kind of took Mace off the mound. So that's kind of the good thing is he threw pretty well, Tommy Mace, but it kind of came down to, I think it was Andrew Baker in there. I'd have to go back and look real quick who was in there. But Michael Byrne failed to get the save just the first time this year that he recorded the loss. And you know him, he's got, 32 saves on the season on UF career save.
I hate to see him with a flaw because he was flawless. He's been flawless.
Yeah. So
although his last appearance, he got touched a little bit on his last appearance. So let's hope that's not a trend for the Gator fans out there. Tell Brendan what this grill out is about. He wants to know about all this food and these recruits. And I've got a list in here of people that on your story today that I've just read. I don't know all these people, but for instance, tell us, let me look down and find a guy that I'd say, okay, tell us how is Will Putnam, the offensive lineman, doing?
Well, I don't think that he's a guy who really has been on Florida's radar too much. He's a guy, in-state guy out of Tampa plant area, but has relocated to the Chicago area. Kind of surprised that they're getting him on campus this early. He's a guy that if you're going to get him on campus, an offensive lineman, he'd be a guy that you'd want to get on campus for an official visit because it's not often that you get kids from the Midwest to come down to Florida on their own dollar for an event that's never happened before. And that's what the Gator Grill Out really is. Every coach who kind of arrives on campus wants to, make their own event, make an event that kind of has their name situated with it. Urban Meyer did it first kind of in 2005 when he brought back the whole Friday Night Lights theme to Gainesville, something that still continues 14 years now. Jim McElwain even did a little bit, added some camps, kept the 7-on-7 tournament that Will Muschamp actually added. And then McElwain added some more junior days. That's kind of all fallen in line with how the NCAA recruiting calendar has, grown pretty much. A lot of schools have a lot more opportunities to have kids on campus this early, and Florida's kind of taking advantage of that with a Gator Grill Out. Buddy, the thing is, I thought that it would be some great weather in theory. Having a Gator Grill Out at this time of year sounds like lovely weather.
Yeah, it
not
does.
Too hot. Shouldn't be rainy, but we've got 100% chance of rain on the forecast.
Dude, it's going to pour.
It's going to pour. So 4 years ago, this event couldn't have happened at all. But about a month ago, in the indoor practice facility, they had a cookout with a bunch of former players. I think it was right before the spring game on the 14th. They had a bunch of players inside the IPF where they had barbecue served and people ate inside there. So I could see it happening in there. But 4 years ago, if there was a 100% chance of rain on the forecast and they had recruits coming in from as far as California, you go on that list there that I ran this morning. The big name on there, buddy, is Chris Steele. He's ranked by 24/7 Sports as the number 7 defensive back in the entire 2019 class. He lives out in California. Getting him to fly across country on his own dollar to come out for a grill out event that may even, kind of go to crap when all is said and done on Saturday is huge for Dan Mullen's momentum on the recruiting trail, because this is a kid that all the big schools want. He's got official visit locked into Texas, to Miami, and he's going to get one locked into Florida before he commits in the next month. That's a big name for Florida to get on campus there.
Graham Hall for Gainesville Sun logging in today this morning to talk about some of these recruits on this new thing called the Gator Grill Out, always pushing the envelope for something new. You mentioned one Steele. Let me mention the people you mentioned that are going to be there who are commits. Tyrone Hooper, linebacker, Deontay Marks, a linebacker, Deontay Marks, a wide receiver, but you got an FSU and a Miami commit in there. Deontay Marks is a UF recruit, but Dante Lucas is an FSU commit. He, of course, is the outside offensive lineman, and then Josiah Pierre, I love that name, a Miami commit. What's he doing there?
Yeah, Florida's actually in the mix for both of those guys. Dante Lucas is someone who committed to FSU a few weeks ago, mainly because of a strong relationship with an assistant coach there, Telly Lockett, that he's known his entire life. Josiah Pierre is a guy who Florida's really kind of looked at a lot more over the last 2 months. He's been committed to Miami for a while, but Florida really thinks they have a shot there. They really like his film. They've been working really hard, staying in contact with him every single day, getting him on campus again. I think for the second time in 6 weeks, I'd have to go back and look. I think he was on campus right before the spring game. But getting this guy on campus just as much as Miami's getting him on campus has to be a promising sign for Florida, knowing that they can kind of go head-to-head with a guy who is locked into a team that, people forget how good Miami was besides that 3-game losing streak to end the season. They had they started 10-0, beat FSU. I know it was kind of on a fluke play, but Miami's recruitment is really ahead of Florida's in a lot of ways, mainly because of how much they've won on the field over the last year or so. Florida really can't say that. So for a 4-7 team to be going head-to-head with guys in-state that a 10-win program just got, that says good things about the program and how people really like Dan Mullen right now.
When you start talking about the so-called Big 5 or 6 in the state of Florida, Miami is right up there behind UCF, I might add, and USF. We're not counting what's happened to FIU and FAU. So the landscape of college football in Florida, if Florida and FSU come back, and I feel like they will this year, if not all the way, at least by next year, this team will be competitive this year, which it wasn't last year. It's a whole different ballgame in the state of 15 million people. There's a lot of people out there. Now, how many of these are kids from Florida? I also didn't mention, I don't think, Trent Whittemore, defensive back is also a University of Florida commit. How many of these are Florida kids? Most of them?
Yeah, Whittemore lives in Gainesville. He goes to Buchholz. So about half kids on the list are in-state products, and that's
so they can come, no problem. Yeah,
they can come on campus, no problem. The NCAA has really made it a lot easier for kids to just show up on unofficial visits. The only thing that they monitor severely right now is how much help universities are giving other kids and whether they're staying in contact with them during dead periods, so to speak. Right now, kids kind of have free reign to show up to any college campus they like, as long as it's on their own dime.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, so we'll be talking about this all summer long. I've got the odds. I'm going to talk about gambling with our next two guests. Joe Williams from Mile High Sports in Denver is our national football handicapper, and Tom Schmitz, a local guy who likes to every now and then put a bob or two on a game. And I keep seeing these numbers, and I'm not a gambler, but Florida's somewhere stuck around 7.5 or 8 games. As they're over and under. I don't know if you get into that much or talk about it. Vegas has got Florida at 8 right now, and according to CBS. So it seems like that's the number. Looking at the schedule without knowing, it's just such a guessing game. Gosh, dog, who knows what's going to happen, who the quarterback is. But it seems like and feels like this team should maybe do a little bit better than expected. That's my gut. but now a lot can happen. A couple of more rests. By the way, we had one of those last week. That wasn't good. And a couple of got injuries, and things changed dramatically, except for the Alabamas of the world. It's always Alabama, Alabama, Alabama. And once again, Alabama is 10.5 a game over under. So obviously they're expected to do well. After that, Auburn and Georgia at 8.5, LSU 9 actually. After that, that seems a little high for them. So, are you hearing much about the projections of the season yet? I know you talk among yourselves in the press boxes and with your buddies in the media. What are you hearing? What's the buzz you're hearing about this team?
I think 8 wins is incredibly realistic, and that says a lot about a team that went 4-7 last year, has a coaching change, still has an unsettled quarterback battle, has many positions, guys who left the team, a potential first-round pick left the team, spots on the defensive line that need to be filled. There's a lot of questions about Florida's team, regardless, that makes it kind of surprising that they could be an 8-win team, but that's how favorable the schedule really is for Florida this year. There's only a few teams that I really think could beat them just based on a pure talent standpoint. Georgia, obviously. I think South Carolina is going to be much improved under Will Muschamp again. That offense seems to be kind of figuring things out, which is kind of always scary with a Will Muschamp defense is if the offense figures things out. I think that they could beat Florida. I think Florida will beat LSU. I think Mississippi State will be a tough game for Florida. People forget that Mississippi State beat a lot of good opponents last year, won 8 games in the regular season. I'd have to go back and look at who they all beat, but I know they were close to beating Ole Miss there at the end of the year, getting a 9-win season. So there's a lot of tough teams on Florida's schedule, but there's also a lot of really easy teams. I could see them starting 5-0, buddy, and that'd be a best case scenario.
Yeah, and Dan Mullen, by the way, being called out by some media people for calling that Florida-Mississippi State game as one of the biggest games in history of the state, and some saying he must not remember LSU and some of those other games involving Mississippi State. But I think he's hyping the game up, and it's going to be huge. I'm planning to be there for it. It's going to be one of those wow things when a coach goes home to his now hostile environment. As Mullen says, those cowbells will be rung regardless of the rules, and they'll pay the fines to ring them. They'll be ringing all night if they win. So it's going to be a colorful scene.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Mississippi State's going to come out fired up. They've still got a good quarterback. They've got a lot of talent there. They've got guys who want to beat Dan Mullen. And if you've been following it, there's a lot of Mississippi State fans who rightfully feel like Scott Strickland and Dan Mullen have kind of taken away the best parts of their athletic program over the last 2 decades. And now they're out there trying to beat them in one season. I can understand why they'd be a little bit miffed or whatever the term is. Understand why they'd be a little bit upset.
I like tifted. Yeah. A tifted is good.
It could be a new word. There we go. Hey, couple things
Buddy and I, he tips me sometimes. Is that right? I can't use it like
that. Is that how it's used?
I don't know.
I think so.
There's a tiff. You get into a tiff, right?
Yeah, you get into a tiff, which is what you and I are going to have in a minute. But that's another story.
Well, that could be a fricka, too. So.
Yeah, no. Well, there you go. Hey, let me just say, I got Lynn Tyndall, our friend up in Brunswick, wants to get us in real quick before we lose Graham. He's got to go do something. He says, keep an eye on Warren McClendon, huge offensive lineman in Brunswick. It's where Lynn lives. And he follows it. Lynn's a student of the game. Going to visit UF soon. So check him out, Warren McClendon, if you haven't already, okay?
Got it. Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure to be on the show. You take care.
All right, one more stat for you real quick. Per Bill Sykes, who does analysts, he says Dan Mullen's quarterbacks at Mississippi State averaged 23.03 yards passing, 669 yards rushing, and 26 combined touchdowns per year. So, that if those numbers hold up, would you be happy with those?
Oh, definitely. I mean, those numbers are way better over the mean, I think, since 2009. You'd have to go back and look, but I think that every Dan Mullen offense has probably been better than any UF offense since 2009, and I bet that Dan Mullen takes great pride in that the offense hasn't been better since he's left. I think that'd give me a lot of confidence. I think anyone would have a lot of confidence in knowing that. I bet that he knows those numbers pretty well.
And by the way, Lynn writes that apparently McClendon will visit in June, so you'll keep an eye out for that, right?
Makes sense. Yep.
Thanks a lot, Graham. I appreciate it, buddy. No, you got to run.
Take
Hey,
care.
Oh, Angel's son. Good job. Hey, Brendan, our girl, Lainey Robinson has had some medical issues this morning.
What?
And our friend Richie out in the Gulf of Mexico, he's out in the middle of the ocean on an oil rig, and Lainey's having great pain in her back, and she's asked for prayers, and Richie's asked for prayers. She's in the hospital right now having some x-rays. So shout out Lainey. We're going to make sure that people know that and I know Richie will keep us on the loop here. And let us know what's going on, because she not only is a member of the Gator Nation Kingdom, she's an elite member.
This logo right here, this Dilly Dilly logo right here, I'll pull it over and show
In
everybody.
her honor.
She made this logo, which was our rallying cry. This was like our flag.
Yes. Yeah, what a sweet couple they are. And, of course, Richie's done some unbelievable things for us on tickets and what have you. So thoughts and prayers to Lainey and Richie, if you would, out there, Gator Nation Kingdom. Let me tell you, Joe.
By the biggest heart running, so nicest guy you can meet.
Oh, really? They're people, they're great people, yeah. So Richie says, trust the process. As you sent a little note out. So all the best to you, buddy. Let me just tell folks about, we're running behind on our commercial breaks here. I want to tell them about Daniel L. Hightower. Of course, he is an attorney. Well, let's hold off Dan. Let's do his spot next. Let me tell you about Center State Bank. We sort of had a restart this morning. Now I get one. Center State Bank, of course, their logo says centered on community and customer service. And what does that mean? Well, that means they really do focus on your needs. And that's what you want out of your bank. Like I always like to say, I hate going to a hostile bank, a big bank, box bank, and they say, who are you? Don't know who you are. 9 forms of ID. I've given to you 10 straight years. You still don't know me. That's impersonal. You got to wonder if they have your best interest at heart. When you go into a bank like Center State, any one of the 82 locations in Florida, 30 Florida counties, and mine right here in Ocala and Gainesville, especially the one on Silver Springs Boulevard, I know I can see a familiar face. I know a name. They know my name. They have great cookies, I like to say. More importantly, they have great values in there. The core values are all about being locally driven in the marketplace, long-term picture of loans, etc., world-class service, and relationship banking. So if you haven't been by there, I suggest you do. If you're in Ocala, going down on 40 towards Silver Springs, about a mile from the courthouse square, there's a place that looks like Tara from Gone with the Wind. Beautiful building off to the right. Many great functions in the community there. Appreciate what they do for the community here. So check them out. Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service in Ocala, Silver Springs Boulevard. Telephone number 352-368-6800 or centerstatebank.com. All right, Brenda, we're going to try to get a hold of Joe Williams in a minute here.
I'm going to call him right now.
All right, I'll go ahead and tell the folks now, if I can, about World of Beer, because you need to know about that. We're excited about what we've got going on there every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Possibility that night may change later on. We could possibly do it another night, depending on what the management wants. But the World of Beer, of course, if you haven't been there, you missed out on a treat. If you want to know where it is, you'll be going up to Gainesville sooner or later if you're a Gator fan. It's worth your trip to go out there. On I-75, you get off of the Newberry exit and go west, a little less than 3 miles. And on the right-hand side, you'll see West End Golf Course. If you see it, you've probably gone too far. Turn left in Tioga Town Center and go to the back of the complex. There's ample parking. And, of course, we're there every Wednesday on the Brady and Buddy Show. And there's a reason they've been picked top bar and top pub in Gainesville 2 consecutive years. They have lots of entertainment. They have music. They have got idiots like us there. Excuse me, Brady. And they have all kinds of beer. We don't talk about the beer. If you like beer, I said to James Bates yesterday, come on out and visit us at World of Beer if you like it. Oh, I don't like beer. Ha, ha, ha. So James will get his chance. All kinds of international and local beer. And, of course, wonderful snacks, finger food, whole meals. I eat there almost every Wednesday night. Really enjoy my time there at World of Beer. You will, too. Check them out. World of Beer. It's not just about the beers, but it could be.
It should be.
Okay, we're going to try to reach Joe Williams here in a moment.
Yes, sir.
And that would be him right there, the voice of reason, as they call him out in Denver. Mr. Williams, good morning.
I'm just waiting here at Denver International Airport to get my boarding pass so I can go over and watch the royal wedding.
I'll see you there. I'll see you there. Where's your seat, by the way?
I'm right up front in the church.
Oh, okay, well, I'm only in the 10th row, so I didn't get that close. But
the same place that you can usually find me every Sunday for morning vespers.
I guarantee you one thing. Your TV at home will be turned on, and it won't be you watching it. So it's like mine this morning. My wife had it on bright and early. I want to see the royal wedding. Well, it'll be on 100,000 times on every network. You don't have to worry about taping it. So consequently, Joe, we have a lot to talk about in a short time to do it because you're a little more experienced in this kind of stuff than most of us. And you've been playing the ponies, as we say, for a long time, and you're a regular Vegas visitor. They call you the mayor of Las Vegas out there, and so you understand the nuances, I should say, of betting a bob or two on college football. So before I start into the odds, which I have in front of me, both Odds Shark, you know what they are, and I have the CBS ones from Vegas, over and under and the number and all that stuff. I still can't figure out the plus this, minus that. But anyway, the bottom line is how will they do? Let's talk about what this whole new legislation, or what do you want to call it, the Supreme Court decision, made it legal for the states now to have betting on sports. How do you understand that, and what do you see? What is it going to change?
Well, for one thing, the states can tax it, bring it out in the open, and make some money on it, like they do the lotteries around the country. And I don't think it changes college football or even professional sports. Buddy, we know there's already $150 million a year that's gambled illegally on professional football.
Right.
So all we do here now is the state starts getting their cut, because now all it is are the back alley bookies who are pocketing. And nobody's getting having to pay any tax on the money that's gambled. So I really don't see all the big difference. What I don't understand is they're saying this is going to increase the value of these NFL franchises by billions of dollars. Maybe it will. I just don't understand it, but I know they're talking that way.
Yeah. We discussed this on your show, the Joe Williams Show. You always ask me how to listen to your show, on my show. How do people get your show if they want to hear you and Irv and Kent on there? Kent's a really knowledgeable guy, by the way, on college football. He knows a lot about football. And how do people get your show? It's every day on the Mile High Sports, and you don't even know
Mile
how
High
to go
Sports
online.
Radio, yeah, that's right. You can go online, Mile High Sports Radio,
Yeah.
and milehighsportsradio.com, and look for the Joe Williams Show, and hit your clicker, and you're in there.
Listen to you talking all that stuff. You knew all that stuff about how to do all that. You're getting really, really hip on all the cyber.
Well, I just knew you were going to ask me that, so I had the answer all panned out. I knew you were going to ask
Joe
me
Williams,
that.
who still has a flip phone and probably never been on the internet in his life. Have you, Joe?
Well, I'm talking on that flip phone right now, and it's a very trusty phone. It always works.
And one of these days, I wanted you to send an email. That'll really floor me when that happens. So, all the correspondence comes to Joe by carrier pigeon, the Pony Express, or through his wife Charlotte on Facebook. So, Joe, you ready to do some picking here on some of these things? And give me some numbers. It's the usual suspects. There's nothing dramatically changed, and it isn't going to change that much. Tell people what Odd Sharks, the difference in Odd Sharks and Vegas. I tend to trust Vegas a lot more, in my opinion, but I guess no matter what it is, it's the gamblers who set the odds, basically, in pari-mutuel wagering at least, but you have to have some expertise when you start out on a line and you want to over and under in terms of wins. And as you suspect, Alabama's right at 10.5. So, and right on down the line, you've got 3 or 4 of the usual suspects. Number one, Joe, let's take Odd Shark. Who are they? And that's all offshore betting. And how much do you trust their odds?
Well, I'm not familiar with Odd Shark, so I can't answer that question. I know about Vegas. You want to ask me about Vegas?
Well,
I'll tell you something that I know about Vegas. I don't know anything about Odd Shark. I never heard of them.
Yeah, well, I'm giving you information you didn't know, but you're online betting offshore is what it is.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, they're a little bit higher on this, say, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and Oklahoma are all at 10.5. 10.5. That's a lot of games for Oklahoma. It's a lot of games, period. Then Penn State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Stanford are at 9.5. TCU, Auburn, FSU, Miami, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Washington, Texas, and UCF all at 8.5. They didn't get down to Florida's level. So that's what they got. Now, the difference is here, I just have the SEC stuff here. But clearly, let's just take the teams and say, if you were making the line, let's take those 4 10.5s. Would you play any of those at 10.5? Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma. No, knowing that you're obviously trying to go over, I guess, right? Or maybe you're not.
Well, yeah. The what I don't have in front of me are the schedules. My Street and Smiths hasn't come out yet, so I don't have the schedules in front of me, and I have a few of those teams. So to give you a legitimate answer, on those, it would depend on, for instance, does Ohio State play at Columbus? Do they play Michigan at Ann Arbor? Things like that make a difference. Now, I happen to know this year that Ohio State plays at Ann Arbor, right. But that would make a difference to me because, as you already know, and as I told you, I believe that they're missing the boat on Michigan. The public is that I think Michigan's going to win the Big Ten this year, and so obviously, whatever their win total is, they probably pegged it at about 9 or 9.5 in Vegas. I don't have that in front of me, but I'm guessing they're going to put Michigan around 9 or 9.5. Obviously, I would go over on them. But with Ohio State and Alabama, obviously, and we know the bowl games don't count. So these are regular season totals.
Right.
Unless it's otherwise notified, you can't do the bowl games. Well, the way they set these odds and the way the public's going to look at them, they go back and they look at Clemson the last 3 or 4 years. They look at Ohio State the last 3 or 4 years, Alabama the same way, and they say, well, how many games have they lost? And usually it's about 1, right?
Yeah.
So that makes it very enticing because at 10.5, you can lose 1 game and still win your bet. If you're betting Alabama over 10.5, they can lose once and you still win your bet. They lose twice, of course, your money goes back to Vegas. So. If you look at recent history, buddy, the Clemsons and the Alabamas, going over 10.5 would probably be a pretty good bet for both of them.
Okay, and have we reached that point, Joe, where we have information overload and yet we don't have enough? I mean, let's go back to your days as a kid cutting grass in Texas, where you're a guy that paid you to cut your grass. You were a kid and you went to Street and Smith and read some stuff, and you got a mind like a steel trap when it comes to facts on college football, and you were able to tell him, oh yeah, be sure and bet Texas Tech this week. Whatever.
Well, keep in mind this, when you're, you go to play blackjack or you go to shoot dice or you're playing roulette, those are games of chance, right? Mm-hmm. Shooting dice, roulette, Kim defer, baccarat, those are games of chance. Yeah. Sports, particularly in our case football, those are games of opinion, right? And it's my opinion against my next door neighbors or against the guys down the street. That's what Vegas is going on. They're setting those lines, those numbers, technically, ideally to get action on both sides, and then they charge you 11-10 or 6-5 or whatever. And that 10% is what they say why the bookies drive Cadillacs. So they're trying to get action on both sides, and so it's what I think about a ball game. It's like you and me disagreeing on who's going to win the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. I think Michigan's going to. You think Ohio State's going to. Whatever the point spread is when those two play, my opinion is that Michigan at home is going right. That's right now, of course, that they're going to win that game, and that's the foundation for setting these lines for people to go up to the betting window. And it's my opinion against yours, and that's what we're at. When I started out as a kid, as we both know, you were a kid, of course, a lot longer than I was a kid.
A long time ago.
It's all about the information that's available to you.
Right.
And all right. Well, here's the deal. Back then, there wasn't much information.
That's my point.
If you lived where I lived, all right. Everybody lives in different places. If I'd lived in Fort Worth and I could get the Star Telegram every day, I had more information than the guy that lived out in West Texas and trying to read the Amarillo newspaper. Yeah. Same thing with the Atlanta papers. But back then, I had to dig for information. I listened to games at night. I paid attention because you never know who was injured. You didn't know this. You didn't know that. Now, you talked about information overload. Everybody has the same access to the same information. So really, the edge between me and the next guy has narrowed dramatically than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago.
So Google kind of did you in, huh?
It's done everybody in. It's almost impossible. No, I mean it is. It's getting harder and harder and harder. Because everybody has access to the same information.
Right.
That's the whole point. I don't have more information than you do.
I understand. I think you're right on, because I can remember the first time I sat in the stands on a football game. A long time, as you know, many years I wrote sports. And before I moved to Denver and got involved as a sports editor at the Denver Post, I took a 3-year respite out of sports, and I bought season tickets to the Bucs game, and I went and watched them and sat in the stands. And I was miserable because all around me, people say, well, yeah, that guy can bench press 300 pounds. Oh, he's got a 440. He's got a 40. He runs a 4.5. I'm thinking, who are these people? I mean, I'm used to sitting with writers who have information, but these people, they all began to get information. And now, Joe, they're all experts. Let's say about experts. Everybody knows how to start a fire. Everybody knows how to run a restaurant. Everybody knows a football game. They all are experts. They love being expert. That's what they say, my picks. I'm going to give you my picks. I don't care about your picks. What kind of reference do we have on your picks? I care about your picks because you know what you're talking about. But you're saying the information age is caught up with you, right?
Well, all I'm saying is last year we were trying to figure out, was Georgia going to win or was Alabama going to win? Everybody had everything to work. The only hidden secret was that Nick Saban was going to go into his back pocket and pull out that quarterback whose name I can't pronounce in the second half. Nobody had that information.
Oh.
Right? We had the rest of it, and it's what you do with it makes a difference. But it's so much, the margin between winning and losing now against the spread. In pro football is minuscule compared to what it used to be.
Yeah. Joe Williams, of course, is my guest. He's host of the Joe Williams Show out in Denver. He's been a long-time radio. We've been doing this radio thing for how long, Joe? 30 years? Off and on?
30, 30.
At least. And Joe's always been on top, loves college football like I do. He's a Texan. He's everything's about Texas with Joe. When you bring it up, he can talk Texas. He can talk Southwest Conference with you. Or he doesn't do much in the NFL, although he has to because he does a show in Denver, and the beloved Denver Broncos are on everybody's mind all the time. But it's a shame, Joe, you haven't had a chance to live in a place where they have real college football. I mean, no offense at Air Force or Colorado State or starting CU, Colorado University of Colorado, who's had a run but now is struggling in the sissy league, as you call it, and in the Pac-12. So think about you, Joe, if you had a chance to go and live like Dan Jenkins does in Fort Worth and as a TCU fan.
Well, just remember one thing. Just remember you're leaving one thing out. I spent the first 14 years of my life in the state of Texas. And the Southwest Conference was king. All right, so don't forget that.
Well,
I know a little bit about what big time college football looks like, even though I was a kid when I was watching it.
Well, I think what you got to do, what Terry Bradshaw did, he just became an honorary Gator fan about 2 weeks ago. We inducted him. You just need to go on him and admit it. You really are a closet Gator fan.
All right, you did it. All right, I am.
Are you in?
All right, yeah, I'm in. I'll be a Gator fan this year.
Okay.
First thing I want to do is change quarterbacks. All right.
All right. Who do you want?
I don't want Felipe.
You don't want Felipe Franks. Okay, so you can start browsing about that. You don't want Felipe. Okay. Why don't you want?
My partner Ken Erickson. His son is at Colorado State as a freshman at Colorado State. I was trying to get McElwain to get out of the shell and bring him down there.
I know you were.
And I was trying to, but this group of quarterbacks you say Florida's brought in, maybe they'll be good enough to cut the mustard.
Right,
I don't know who they are, but maybe they will.
You're an official Gator fan, at least for a year. Bradshaw wants me to send him a hat and a shirt, and he's like all in. So, Terry. You and Terry and I used to, if you think.
Wait a minute. I'm an official Gator fan for today. If I hear something I don't like, it could change.
What? Now we don't need your kind. If you can't do
next thing you know, you'll have me standing up singing the Aggie War Hymn. Come on now.
Or buying those jams and jellies on the side of the road in Arkansas.
That's right. Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day, Joe, and I'll let you go with this. I know you got things to do, but I was trying to express myself on something, an award that's being given for a writer in the South who covered college football, and someone we can honor every year, something I'm working on. I was trying to express myself, but if you don't, the beauty of Southern writers, and I include Texas in that, is their ability to storytell and the way they express the joy of a college football game, or the way they can put the words together. And there's just something very almost poetic about how they write it, how they've written it. And that's the one thing I love about the sport. And those guys don't exist anymore. They're all gone like the little birds, the dinosaurs. But the great ones, like the Dan Jenkins, could put together words about a game. It just gives you it either makes you laugh, or cry, or it just gives you great joy.
Well, as I told you when I first ran India, and after we got acquainted, my favorite growing up was Dan Jenkins. Obviously the writer Blackie Sherrod, who wrote for the Dallas newspaper. And as I told you when I first met you, the thing that was drawing me to you because you wrote like those guys did.
Well, that's an honor.
There weren't many guys, but basically who had that kind of ability, and I don't know what the hell happened to us after that. We got to be friendly, and then all my dreams went up in smoke. But
that's because I busted you for smoking one time in a car in Phoenix when you were hiding.
Yeah, we've got to go into that, I guess.
Well, final thing, Mike Slive yesterday, Paul Feinbaum so eloquently put it, what a great friend he was for college football. And one of the things he did was he loved to know what was going on. He would actually call up Tony Barnhart and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? You had relationships with people. I actually used to drink beer with the offensive coordinator at Florida on a Friday night, and he would give me the game plan. Now, I couldn't write it or you broadcast it, but that kind of trust and that kind of connection, it's just so placid now today. It's difficult to have a real good feeling about a program when you feel like you're a million miles away from it. You know that feeling? But I do look forward to what's happening in Florida. I'm hoping that will warm things up. And now that you're a new big Gator fan, we expect you to get behind the program and start wearing your Gator gear out there in Colorado on the show.
Well, you said something pretty good about the trust issue because right now, I don't know whether it's the money they make or whatever, but as a rule, college football coaches are very close-lipped. They don't trust people in the media, even if they know that they're friends of the program, because everybody knows there's such a thing as that. And I'll never forget, buddy, in 1982, do we have time for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, in 1982, Ken Hatfield's last year at Air Force. And I went down there. Fisher DeBerry was his assistant at that time, and Ken Hatfield was the head coach at Air Force. And I went down there. It was the week they were playing Notre Dame, and I went down there just to beat him in the coach's office and just see how things were going. Basically, I was just trying to see if everybody was healthy and everything. But just to give you an idea, and he told me about you can call it whatever you want to, but it was a trick play. And he said, Joe, we're going to use this. I don't know at what point in the game, but he said, we're going to use this play, and I'm going to show you how it works right now. And he said, but you got to promise me you won't say a word, to anybody, which, I didn't think any of that. I said, of course I'm not going to say anything. I want you to beat Notre Dame as bad as anybody else does.
Yeah.
But the point of it was that he trusted me, and he told me about this play that nobody knew about, right? Well, that wouldn't happen today in a million years.
No, that has changed all that.
It would not happen in a million years. But that's how much things have changed, right?
Yeah, I feel like an outsider. It's unfortunate, but I do enjoy talking about it. That's why we talk about it so much, and you and I have a chance to, we did watch them beat Notre Dame, by the way, 4 straight years at Air Force.
Yes, we did.
And I went to South Bend that year, too, and saw them win there. So that was fun. Those were fun. See, you had a brief run college football is not king out in the college. And I used to go to those Big 8 games, except for Nebraska, the team you hate. I love to go to Lincoln because in 80,000. Of course, it was always beating up on the Buffaloes. But it was a setting was much like the SEC. But Folsom Field to me was like going to a South Florida game or something. It just wasn't that much. That's changed a bit though too. So, Joe, it's been a great conversation as usual. Appreciate
Buddy,
it.
you know what? You mentioned Nebraska. Interstate 80 that runs along the state of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Do you know what they call those silos? Those big old tall silos that you see looming up by the side of Interstate 80 in Nebraska. You know what they call them?
You're going to tell me what this? No.
Holiday Inns.
Yeah. You could do a whole stand-up routine on Nebraska football for sure, without question. All right, he's the hit man. He's on the Joe Williams Show. We have him hopefully now on Fridays. We'll see how that schedule works out. And love doing the radio with him out in Denver. And give my regards to Irv Brown and also to Ken Erickson. We'll talk to you next week, Joe.
All right, buddy.
Thank you,
Music's playing.
All right, music's playing, right. And there's those silos Brendan put up out there in Nebraska. So, Holiday. You want to go ahead and run our friend Dan Hightower? Let's talk about him and his lovely wife, Mary Shelton, by the way, who lucky to have at my birthday party. So good friends of the show. And here's a word from Daniel L. Hightower, a lawyer, fighting for accident victim justice, whenever Brendan's ready to roll.
Yeah, well, when I'm ready to roll, you always just, throw things on me like I'm super fast. I just wanted to say one of my favorite things about you and Joe Williams that you used to always say when I was a kid is you always talk. It was caller-driven shows. You guys would do shows, and you'd always tell everyone there were full lines on the show today, and there was nobody on the phone. So. Well,
that's because we were out in Elizabeth, Colorado, in literally a cow pasture in a 2-room studio where we could do a live show. We had 5 shows a week, but one of them was live, and we had to drive out in the middle of nowhere and be sure to close the gate. The cows would get out, and we had 2 lines. And Joe would say, we'd have one on there, and Joe would say, let's move it along. We got full lines. You're right. That's exactly what he did. So it was a lot of fun with Joe. I love doing radio. Maybe nobody else likes it. I always like doing it with Joe. He's a fun guy. And by the way, really good on college football.
All right. Well,
which, of course, is my first love.
We'll be back.
All right?
We'll be back.
Right.
All
right.
No one ever plans a car accident. Having a plan after you've been in one, however, can make a world of difference. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. After meeting with Dan and his team, you'll know your case matters, that you matter, and that Dan will fight hard to get you just results. If you've been severely injured through no fault of your own by a careless or reckless driver, you need Daniel L. Hightower.
Well, with us, it's a family-owned business. Majority of the employees are family. No drugs, no alcohol. We do a lot of big, high contracts. We do a lot of governmental contracts. We do Sikorsky aircraft and E-1 we've done for many years. And we carry, big general liability insurance policies. Knock on wood, since 1958, we've never had one claim. So there's not too many companies that can stand by that. Safety is very important to AAA Tree Service. Not only for our own employees, but for our customers as well. We take pride in going to their places. We treat it like it's our home, and we leave it the way it would be if it would be our home. And we even go above and beyond. We do more than just trees. I mean, we trim hedges, we pressure wash, you name it. We get into doing anything that a customer needs. Call us at 873-3440, or on the website AAATreeService.com, or also on CenturyLink.com as well.
You're back, buddy. I don't like gambling. I've never been a big like. Well, that's massive money. I mean, if you think about FanDuel, you think about all the fantasy sports. I mean, that's what it's coming down to. So, I mean, they want to be able. Oh, we're not up. Oh, sorry, everybody. Back on the Buddy Martin show there. Sorry, the sound was turned down. My fault. I'll fix that in the podcast. But, yeah, back on the Buddy Martin show. Thanks for watching through the break there. We're going to call Tom Schmitz. I'm trying to call Tom. So, Tom, if you're not listening, I've been calling your phone. Want me
to try him?
Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't matter. I'm trying him here. Let's see
Okay.
if he picks up. If not, we'll try him again and see if Tom will answer. And we'll come up in a second. But, yeah, Buddy and I were just discussing, gambling. A lot of people don't like gambling. A couple of comments that say they don't like the gambling, which you understand. I'm not a gambler. Never been much of one, Buddy. I guess you like to gamble a little bit more than I did. But
No, football. Mine was horse racing. Tom, by the way, says he's there. Tom says he's there, and he said
on his Skype phone. Right.
And he says, Tom says, not coming through. I'm here. So there you go. So
well, we're gonna try him again because I see his picture. Trying him again.
Okay, we got the gremlins going on today. I'll tell you what.
No, it's not gremlins today.
So the phone's not ringing. He says so. Anyway,
did tell him to open his Skype app. Maybe to help us.
Open your Skype app. Whatever. We don't have time.
Tell him to call me. Call you. Call us. We'll put him on.
Okay. I think we're running out of time here with it. So.
Sorry, Tom. There he is.
Call me. Call you.
Tom, we hear you.
I'm here.
There he is.
I'm here.
Tom Schmitz.
I'm here.
From the program. Tom, as soon as you get acclimated there and you turn on your camera, we can see you. We can hear you. Welcome to the program, Tom Schmitz.
Well, I'm trying to turn my camera on, but you want me to do things I don't know how to do.
You and Buddy. I don't know what to do.
Wait. Hold on now. Don't say you and Buddy.
I know. Actually, Buddy, you've been much better. I have to say, Buddy, you have been much better with your technology. But, of course, me being around a little bit more is kind of nice. So, got that to deal with. Tom,
how about that? Does that work?
Let's see if we see Tom Schmitz.
Why don't we just talk?
I see Tom there.
All right.
Well,
how's that? Does that work?
Let's see if we see there.
All right. Let's do the talking, and let you guys worry about the pictures. We're running out of time. So
Tom's here. Got a haircut or something. What's going on? You look different.
I've lost 47 pounds, Brendan.
I know that, but your hair is different. Something's different with your hair. Your hair looks different.
I didn't put gel in it. Thanks for pointing that out.
It is?
Okay, while you guys are doing your hair,
natural gray.
Today, you got a show to do here while you're doing your beauty tips. Okay, if you don't mind, we'll move it along.
It's just live radio, but it's just live video.
And, it's
fine. I just said Tom looks different. It looks like a different Tom.
All right, Tom, did you notice you had a chance to hear the Joe Williams? I know a little bit about gambling. We were just discussing the vagaries of gambling. And the good and bad. Some people don't like it. Some people don't care. But the fact is that the Supreme Court ruling, not getting into all that, has allowed the states to make their own choices. And what we're all trying to figure out is how it's going to affect sports, because it's sports gambling now. You have a guy who likes to bet a bob or two. May or may not be locally. Maybe, I don't know where it's, I don't want to know. But the bottom line is,
how?
You heard Joe Williams. What was your take on it, Tom?
Well, first off,
the
fact that Joe Williams only wants to be a Florida fan for today, in case he hears something different, we need to kick him off the bandwagon right away for that. I'm just telling you.
I'm going to do that. I'll never kick Joe off the bandwagon. I can get him, but
no. You know what it's going to do, buddy? It's going to cause people to not be able to bet on credit, which is a good thing, because if you know anything about the behind the black market betting, when people bet underneath with bookies and everything, there's an understanding that if you get towards a certain number, either you win or you lose, then you have to go pay the bookie. But it's all done on a handshake and an agreement that you're going to pay. Legalized betting won't be that way. You will have to put money up to make a bet. So it'll take the whole line of credit thing out of it. What I want to know is, are they going to, when they pass the legislation, or states going to pass the legislation that make it where it's a cash only, where debit cards and credit cards can't be used? Because could you imagine a college freshman or a college sophomore that gets one of those introductory $1,000 credit limits, and they give them out like candy at college, having $12,000, $15,000 worth of debt because he's losing using his credit card to gamble?
I mean, can you imagine? I think it's already going down that way because, some states you can do FanDuel and you can do all this other stuff. So I think it's just going to be exacerbated even more so, Tom. I heard your reports of that stuff going on in Colorado, where I knew my friend's son's like, I had to collect money for my kid because he won all this money on FanDuel. He picked the right team. So he's like, how much you win? He's like, I don't know, won like $10,000.
The other thing it's going to do as well is it's going to open up. Right now, you can bet on teasers or parlays. Without going into what all that is, you can bet teasers, parlays, you can bet lines. If they do this the right way, the way they do it in England, you'll be able to bet on whether he makes a field goal or not while you're sitting in the stands.
Prop bets. Actually, live prop bets.
You'll be able to do all of that legally. You'll be able to bet on whether, a pitcher in the 7th inning is going to get a strikeout before he gets a ground out and stuff like that. It opens up a whole another avenue of betting, and it opens up states to be able to collect lots of money in revenue.
Yeah, the Vegas we talk about. Look, we don't have time to get into a long discussion, but people say, well, how about the athletes? So they're going to be able to gamble? Yeah, they're going to be able to gamble. They can gamble now, and by the way, some of them do. And we know people who have done it. Back in my day, back in the ancient darks, although not long ago this also happened, they had these cards, parlay cards, Tom, remember them? And every fraternity house had them. Somebody would go over there and give 100 of those out and get $1 for everybody, and you bet. And parlay cards were a big thing, and it was common in those days, although one football player or more got busted in Florida for using parlay card bets. And it's just a different form of it. It's always been there. Some people, I know a guy from Jacksonville, I went to school there, who's been known to know the wise guys. There's the late Rick Caceres. All I'm going to say about Rick is he had people coming up from Tampa in black limousines coming to his room, and Augie Griner said he was kicked out, and the guys in suits stayed in there. I mean, it's always been this. And don't forget, John Macbeth, way back in the history, read the book of Boys in Old Florida, Ray Graves, when he was at Florida, and they beat Georgia Tech, there was a gambling investigation going on with a gambler named Aaron Wagman, who had approached a Gator player to get him to throw a game. And when, to his credit, although we wonder how much coercion there was, the player, the player turned in, his name was John Macbeth, turned him into the FBI, and Wagman was arrested and sentenced to prison. So it's always been around there. We know about the famous basketball scandals, certainly North Carolina, Kentucky, they're involved in them. Gambling has always been around sports. The question is it healthier now that it's out in the open and it can be monitored and governed, or was it better back in the day when we sort of winked at it?
Well, let me ask you this question. Were casino gamings, the roulette tables, and the dice games better when they were in the back rooms of speakeasies, or are they better now that they're in Vegas and regulated and government oversight of it, and you know that the fix is not in? Which is better, out in the open, or the old days when the dice may have been loaded or the roulette wheel may have been shaped a certain way? Was it better then, or is it better now? Well, it's a lot better now that it's regulated. It's going to be a lot better gambling-wise once it's out in the open and it's something that is regulated. I think that for certain.
Remember this, and this will wrap it up today, is that remember when Pete Rozelle got involved in the National Football League's commissioners, one of the first things he did was he went and met with the bookies because they said, you want what we want, an honest game. So that's when they came out with things like the injury report. All coaches like Belichick still try to hide them, but now he made a weekly injury report, a mandate. He watched the lines because you can see the funny business and the money starts coming in. And the NFL knew people were betting on games back then, although they wink at it now. The question is, how will this impact the NFL? And everybody's saying, I heard Mark Cuban say, franchises will be worth twice as much. I haven't figured that part out yet. But obviously, the NFL is going to get its share.
Well, and this is, to me, the sport that's going to benefit the most from it, buddy, because it's a numbers-driven sport, and that's where betting with the different ways you can bet, it will open up a lot of avenues, is baseball. Baseball, who has been relegated to the 3rd or 4th biggest sport in the country, I think sports betting is going to help baseball get back some of that audience that has been losing. FanDuel has helped baseball tremendously. And open betting where you can bet on whether there's a strikeout before a ground out and stuff like that, the prop bets is going to help baseball, I think, a ton.
All right, Brendan has an idea, apparently. They're telling us online because there's a light bulb over his head. So apparently he has something he wants to talk about.
You need to really make your video work so you can see all my antics, buddy. I'm sure you would.
I have to look at them on my.
Charmed by it all.
I have to look at them on my phone because I can't get to Skype.
Fair enough. My idea is I heard somebody hearken it to like legalizing marijuana. You know it's out there. You know people are doing it. Why not make some money, tax it, and put it out in the open? I mean, it certainly helps shut down any of the dark, drug dealers down the street, and makes it always out in the open and regulated. I think it makes a lot more sense to do that with gambling. It's like not having a pro team in Vegas. It doesn't make any sense with online gambling. What's the difference? So I don't know. I know a lot. Tom, you probably got a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends that love to gamble online, and
there's a bunch of us. There's a bunch of us that gamble online. There's a bunch of us that have bookies right here in this town of Little Ocala.
Sure.
Believe me, there are plenty of bookies. And you make a good point, Brendan. The lottery did that.
Yeah.
The numbers game used to be a big racket for the mob and everything.
Yeah.
Well, the lottery is the numbers game.
Right.
But the state took over the numbers game, and now that's not a big black market thing anymore. Now sports betting is. So the lottery was the numbers game back in the day.
Well, I'll give you this little story. We'll say goodbye. This is how it was in New York. The lottery in New York was, as you know, big time. The illegal numbers.
Buddy, did you have a bookie ever? You ever
No, I never had a bookie. No.
That's
the guys at the CBS used to gamble. One year I bet a little money, $100 a weekend or something on the NFL. And by the way, I was getting to see every game back before they had where you could see every game. I thought, this has got to be information. I've been working at CBS. I can see every game every Sunday. I'm going to know stuff. Guess what? It didn't help you a bit. But here's the thing that's interesting. The numbers game was so huge in New York, especially out in Brooklyn, the Bronx, except Harlem, whatever. And so you think, what is the number? How did they come up with it? And I found out one night the hard way. No, I found out at the New York Daily News, we had teletypes that printed out the results of all the racing, Yonkers and so on and so forth, every bit of racing. And we tear them off race by race and send it back to the composing room. I always noticed that time for the last race of the night, the guys from the composing room, who have no real business being in there, would come in and hover over the machine. And they'd get that and say, I'll get this for you, buddy. We'll take it back and get it taken. Okay, fine. What he was getting was the total handle in dollars for the night at Yonkers, or whatever it may be. And they would always get that in because why? That was the number. That set the number for that day, the total handle. Who knows what shenanigans went in on that deal, but that's what they did back in the day. The handle on the track was the number they bet. And
some of them used the last three numbers of the stock exchange when the stock exchange closed. Some of them used that last three numbers.
Right.
There were different avenues, but it was all numbers of something that was generated through business of the day.
Well, the Belita Bagmen were famous in Florida, and especially down in Tampa, where the mob was located. Traffic County was there, and Belita was the form of the number in New York City. So anyway, enough of that.
Gambling across the world is the one thing that unites us as human beings, because anywhere you go in any country, I don't care how third world it is, and I've been in some pretty ugly places, there's always somebody selling a lottery ticket. So, there's always the gambling is everywhere in every country in every place. So why not bring it out there?
Yeah, for sure. All right, Tom, thanks a lot, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, and see you next Friday, and if not before. All right?
Bye, Tom.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
Brendan, we got a couple of comments there, if you can pull them up. Well, your sister said several things there.
I can't pull up the comments.
Well, I'm trying to get them myself, and I'm having a hard time. But why are we having all these issues? I don't know.
No, I can see the comments. But you want to see it? You want me to talk about them?
Well, there were 2 or 3 comments. Your sister Rebecca had some funny comments. She weighed in on a couple of things that were funny.
First
and
of all, I'm putting the logo up, Laney's logo. Are you seeing it right now?
Yeah.
Join the Gator Nation King. Made this. This is a recent artwork. We got a love out to Richie Robinson, who's on the oil rig right now, and his bride is not feeling well, and that going prayers out to Laney Robinson, Richie Robinson's wife, who's I guess not doing great. So we got lots of love. She made this graphic and all the other graphics that we enjoy here at the Gator Nation Kingdom. So letting you guys know. Love and prayers out to her. Anyway, that's all I had with that, but just letting you know with everybody.
Okay. Didn't get a chance. I don't have Rebecca's comments. She made some funny ones, but because I don't go back. Mom won't go back that far. Well, we'll catch you next time, Rebecca. I hope good luck on the remodeling of the kitchen. As you say, prayers out to Laney Robinson. Hope you get a good report on her. We will have Urban Meyer. We were scheduled to try to have him today, but he had something came up. He will be joining us next Wednesday. And we'll be getting Bill Sykes, who does Gator Breakdown stuff, does his own analysis. People like him a lot. He's a numbers person. He's moving to Jacksonville area. He will, not next week after. Bill Sykes
He wants to be closer to the kingdom, probably.
No doubt about it. Who wouldn't want to be closer to the kingdom? It's all good, right? So that's going to wrap up today. We're off for the weekend. We have lots of plans to announce. Brenda and I are having some great meetings next week with good people. Thanks to we have so many talented people here. Shout out to Chad Rich, the Czar, Internet Czar, and a lot more, by the way, Tech Czar, and also to our new. I guess he's the wire chieftain or the ultimate wire man, the guy who's going to save us at World of Beer. He's a master.
Save you.
Well, that counts. You're sitting back drinking drinking Diet Coke, eating bonbons, and you're
absolutely,
out. I'm out there laboring, trying to put a show on with Brady Ackerman, carrying him through the show,
Look,
as
buddy,
well as all the technical stuff.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't hate the player.
So anyway, I'm not going to leave it on a bad note. I'm just going to say,
what up, Colville?
Will you get rid of that? Will you please sell that hat next week, or whatever you're going to do when you and Covell got a bromance going on this hat thing? It's a little bit much, really. Is that the hat for sale?
No, it's not for sale. Nothing's for sale. I don't know why you keep trying to pimp my stuff out.
Well,
Nothing's
people
for
keep
sale.
asking.
No one can have it. I'm not.
People are
selling
asking
anything.
about it. They
selling
won't know. Is it for sale?
I'm not selling anything. I told you.
Okay, well, there you go. I guess they'll have to get their own. All right, are we done here?
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say?
I want to thank our guest today.
Yeah,
appreciate it very
do
much.
that.
Graham Hall's always good. Get Graham on. He's fresh. He's got boots on the ground in Gainesville. He knows what's happening. Wood does a good job on recruiting. He does baseball. He's an all-purpose guy. Of course, I love Joe Williams. Sometimes I think it's just Joe and I talking and nobody else cares, but I don't care. I love doing radio with Joe, and Joe's a knowledgeable guy and fun. Tom Schmitz, of course, has done a lot of radio with me over the years, and of course, Brendan Martin. We just keep going, pushing the envelope. Like John Wooden said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not giving the best effort. So
lots of mistakes. So.
Yeah, bear with us. You know what we're pointing for? Football season. So many things are going to be happening. It's going to be awesome.
So many things. So.
Wow, if we can only tell you. If we just could tell you about them.
Because we don't really know ourselves.
Kind of do, but kind of don't.
I like the World of Beer commercial. It could be a sports. Looks like a sports show.
Not just about the sports show, but it could be. Is that it?
Yeah. Well,
it's not just about the football season. No, that World of Beer has got its own.
It's not just about a sport. Somebody said it. We're not just a sports show, but we could be.
Is that what it is?
Yes. We're not just a show about the Gators, a sports show about the Gators, but we could be.
Yeah, that's good. I had a blog once called Sometimes Sports, Sometimes Not, because as you know, I have to write up and talk about other things, which is why I have the Our Town show. By the way, if you know Tom James, his mother, they're a very formidable duo here in town in Ocala. Go up to Our Town with Buddy Martin and check out yesterday's show with Tom and Tony, who are two really great people, done a lot of good things in our community. Tom does a lot of stuff on ESPN now. He does soccer, and he does college basketball. He's been to Disney a lot. So Tom James, a very good broadcaster, excellent play-by-play guy. So, all right. So I guess that's going to wrap it. What you got planned for the weekend?
I didn't even know it was Friday until about 10 minutes ago.
That would help.
Well, I mean, I've just been really busy. So there's not a whole lot on tap for me. I'm gonna probably do a lot of work around the house. My wife's in full tilt. Clinical mode and work, so I'm really pretty much daddy until we take off for the beach in 2 weeks for work.
That's because she's the talent in the family. That's why.
Oh, and
she's the real talent.
I've just found I'm going to Chicago next month. So there you go.
You are? Next month?
Yeah.
Middle of the month. Well, you know what next month is? It's one. It's getting closer and closer to SEC Media Days, and The world wants to know what's Brenda going to do. Well, we'll find out.
Just trying to.
So,
all right. Well, let's.
All right. Brenda English says, have a good weekend. John Enrico, great show. It's all good. Roger Burns says, best wishes to Richie and his wife for sure. And Richie has a little, what do you call the emoji up there? He's got tears on it. I hope he's going to be okay. Steve Flatman said, I hope everyone had a great day. Wednesday, June 6th, World of Beer. All right. Flatman says he's coming. You believe him? World of Beer.
Brent English said he changed his work schedule so he could start coming down to World of Beers.
Well, okay. Brent English, he's always got something to offer. When you go gambling, stop by Twin Palms Resort and have a beer and tell my aunt hi. I think that's a commercial. He should be charged for that, don't you think?
We'll put it on. He's first round's on him.
There you go. All right. Have a good weekend, buddy. Love you.
Yeah, love you. Bye.